listening to WSTU, Stewart, Jensen Beach, Hope Sound, Martin County's Heritage Station.
It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Good morning and welcome. It's Monday. This is a special pre-recording on a Meet Your Candidate series. We're here in the studio this morning. We're live on Facebook, but this show will air again on WSTU AM 1450 on Wednesday, July 13th at 10 a.m. But today, if you have any questions or comments for the candidate, I will be watching Facebook, so please join the show. We're going to have a lot of good information today. Very excited in the studio. I have Jeff Buongiorno. And Jeff, you are running for Congressional District 21, which used to be what we always called 18. You're running for the House of Representatives here that represents St. Lucie, Martin, and Northern Palm Beach County. So welcome to the show today. Very anxious to get into the show, talk about a lot of the topics that are so important here in CD 21. But before we get into those, and before we ask the questions, I have a few sponsors I want to thank. First of all, COVID, unexpected expenses, illnesses. There are many issues that can cause your successful business to slump deep into the red. We're here to help, and we only get paid if we provide you a workout. Debt restructuring is complicated. We are the negotiator between you and your creditors. Commercial Mortgage has been in the industry of small balance corporate finance since 2003. Our focus is on challenging corporate foreclosures, debt restructures, equity, and new debt solutions. These issues are often not easy to see or understand when you run a business and are faced with multifaceted debt challenges that include legal actions on various fronts. That's where we come in. We never charge a front fee or a deposit. We are only paid if we successfully provide you a debt workout. Areas of expertise include hotels, marinas, office buildings, restaurants, apartments, multifamily, condos, golf courses, home builders, and land development, including new and repurposed developments. Call Commercial Mortgage, LLC at 772-872-6099 or visit them online, commercialmortgagellc.com. Also remember, the best kept secret in Martin County is the Fish House Art Center. You can check them out online, thefishhouseartcenter.com, before you head out there, but there's something there for the entire family. They're doing some construction right now, but there's still an art gallery, boat charters, marina, Airbnb, craft and creamery, and craft beers, wine, and 24 flavors of ice cream. That's down in the Pocket in Port Salerno, and a lot of fun for the whole family. And finally, it's hurricane season. Folks, I say this every week, and I cannot warn you enough. Please make sure that you have safe harborage for your boats before a hurricane is named. Once it's named, it's pretty much impossible to find a place in this town to keep your boat. And one of South Florida's very best storage facilities is Indiantown Marina. It's located inland on the Okeechobee Waterway, very well protected hurricane hull, and it's also a do-it-yourself and full-service boat yard. So give them a call at 631-3272. That's 772-631-3272. That's Indiantown Marina. So today, as I said, we have a Meet Your Candidate. We have Jeff Buongiorno, and also I have my co-host here, a special co-host, Eric Miller from Talk About Martin. Hey, Eric.
How am I today?
You are wonderful, and how are you?
Fantastic, thank you.
I knew it.
Great.
I knew it.
All right.
And Jeff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing terrific. Thanks for asking. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, Jeff, you're a political outsider who's been watching the hijacking of our government by various forces for years. These include lifelong career politicians, socialist Democrats, the communist Chinese government, elite globalist, mainstream media, Hollywood, and big tech. You believe that it's time for we, the people, to take our government back and restore it to its rightful owners, the people. Jeff Buongiorno is a conservative constitutionalist and an American businessman. He escaped the tyranny of New Jersey and fled to the great state of Florida over a decade ago, seeking new opportunities and medical freedom. Jeff has cared for his mother personally through the last few years of her long battle with dementia. Jeff spent his career fighting for law enforcement and standing up for the Constitution. Early on, he served as deputy sheriff. He knows that low taxes and less regulation will spawn more opportunities for everyone. Why the Socialist Democrats are attempting to cancel the history of our great nation, Jeff is running for Congress to protect our Constitution and God-given rights as an ardent defender and supporter of self-governance. He believes that the Constitution is as relevant today as it was when it was signed, and he is prepared to fight for we the people.
Hooah! Can we break out into the Star Spangled Banner
I
or something?
know.
Let's
Jeff,
go.
flatter myself.
Jeff, this
love it.
absolutely sounds wonderful. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are running. I just read your biography that says a lot about that.
Sure. Well, as my biography said, I'm running through a store, power to the people. I have a vast experience in business. I owned and operated IT training centers, and we took on veterans and grants and got them. We called this suit camp. So from boot camp to suit camp, and for 18 years, I worked with veterans, training them in IT. We had about 12 locations across the northeastern seaboard, and from that, I kind of morphed into some other technical areas, and I've been in tech, I've been in law enforcement, I've been in business my entire life, and I think that my real world experience can help government. We have a lot of problems. We're in debt. We can't even pay the interest on our debt. We're running at a $1 trillion a year deficit, and we need help. And I think I can help, and I'm putting myself out there.
We do. We're going to get into that a little bit, but debt's around $31 trillion right now for the country, and it just, that debt clock, when you go to that website, it's just spinning around so quickly. It's frustrating. So we do need fiscal conservatives in Congress. I'm glad to hear you say that. And by the way, thank you for helping the veterans. And Eric, I think you can probably relate to this, that how important it is for them to be able to have some sort of job. I want to say job, but it's a technology-based job to come back to help train them so that they can come back.
Well, yeah, I served in the infantry, and you don't gain many skills other than learning how to kill people in the infantry and how to survive. And they taught me how to jump out of planes and do wonderful things. And you come back out of the military at 22 years old. I was fortunate, did not see any live fire action. I served during the Cold War when East Germany was still there and the wall was still up. I can't imagine guys that have served a couple of tours over in Iraq and Afghanistan. Well, there's no need to imagine. I've known quite a few of them. And Brian, your opponent, is one of these that served some time in Iraq. Brian obviously came back with some amputations, which shows the level of veracity that war actually had and the personal nature that it took. Did you know that he was actually given a home that was built for disabled veterans, specifically built so that he could help overcome his handicaps, and they gave him the home. All he had to do was live in it for 10 years. He had to agree to live in the home for 10 years. And as a local politician here, he and his cohort at the time that had wanted to speak with me because of the position that I held, he had no real power to it whatsoever as state committeeman here in Martin County, but everybody, in terms of endorsements, because everybody sought your endorsement as being a state-level member of the Republican Party here in Martin. And Brian came in with his cohort, and we had a conversation and talked about him running for Congress, and he pitched his Veterans Pledge and everything that went along with it. He said, there's only one thing, though, that I have to overcome, and that's getting out of this 10-year lease that I have with the people to get up here so that I can move into the district to run. And this was on his initial scouting party that he did. He also came to our veterans groups and made a lot of promises on how he was going to behave, on what he was going to do as a American veteran and as a supposed constitutionalist heading up. Brian played a lot of people for a lot of things and has said a lot of things in the past that have not come to fruition. And the words, I would encourage everybody out there to close their eyes when they listen to these two men speak, and Melissa, for that matter, that's in the race. But close your eyes when you do it. Don't be overcome with the visuals. Let what you hear them say make your mind up more than the visuals that take place with this, because there's a lot of props that can be used in this campaign, and I hope that they don't. But that's who that's the way I see personally your opponent. And to hear your intro talking about the Constitution and all of these great things, it's refreshing. I won't have to take much more time to warm up the questions with you on this, because anyone that believes in the Constitution at this point understands something that's very basic and critical that's taking place in our republic. This is not a democracy. This is our republic. And in this republic, the system is not broken. The people that are in the system that we have put there because we voted for them, people like Brian Mast, have turned a blind eye to the Constitution, has turned a blind eye to the American spirit. And folks, I'll tell you again, not every veteran is a constitutionalist. Not every veteran looks at the Constitution the same way. Look at the way Brian has gone against the Second Amendment. Now, I'm not running for Congress, you are, but I want you to tell me about the system. What is it that you can tell us and these people that when you get elected and you get to Capitol Hill, you're not going to do and you are going to do? And how do we know we can believe you?
Well, the first thing we need to put is morality over money. And let's put people over politics. And I'm impenetrable. I'm not in this for the long haul. I've had a long career in business, and I want to go in there, fix things, fight for the people. I want to strip away legislation, more so than create legislation. I mean, it was great with the Roe decision and with the New York State law on the Second Amendment being appealed, where you had to show cause to actually invoke the Second Amendment. We need more of that. And I think since the early 1900s, when the industrialists and the globalists, they had a way with the government and with the people, and we've been under attack ever since with spaghetti legislation that we need to undo. And any new legislation should sunset within 4 to 5 years. It might not be applicable for the time. In 5 years, it's outdated. So these are the things we need to do. Get back to natural law. Get back to the Constitution. Let's bring manufacturing back. Let's be energy independent. Let's take care of our veterans. Most importantly, we're flying Afghans in. We have an open border. Like, what is going on? It's like a horror story we're watching unfold, and we're losing our liberties. We're going to lose our status as reserve currency, and then we have to go to war because we have no standing to do any kind of sanctions if we're not the world currency. So this is what scares me.
Jeff, let's step back 1 second. We've got so many issues we're going to talk about, and we're going to go back into this Second Amendment as well, but you are absolutely right. And Jeff, you have a website. It's jeffbuongiorno.com. Folks, I definitely recommend you go to that website. Your issues are spelled out there. You can tell where Jeff stands on a lot of different issues. We're going to cover as many of them as possible in this hour. Step back 1 second. Let's talk a little bit more about the right to life. That was a huge ruling that happened over last week.
Terrific ruling. And most importantly, we're not letting our judicial system legislate. 5 guys in robes or 5 people in robes, they can't dictate the law of the land. And right to life is huge, but it also sets a precedent, and people are starting to realize that we have a structure to government, and our rights were being trampled for a while, and it's a beautiful thing. 63 million lives lost. I mean, one of those lives, they may have been able to come up with an idea to solve our water problems.
Joe Biden said yesterday, or shortly after the announcement on the Dobbs announcement, the Roe v. Wade, that the Supreme Court had demonstrated once again the power of the Supreme Court and had taken away a constitutional right in front of everyone. Yeah. A constitutional right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. I think people are getting back to the civics lesson on that and seeing that the Constitution did win, and that there are already states that, there are large corporations now that because they want to keep their ESG score so high that they are going to pay their employees that want to go get an abortion, Casey, to fly to a state to have it done. And I can tell you that in Las Vegas, they'll have hotels set up for medical practices of abortion, that people can have deluxe accommodation when they go and do it. It's a cult.
I've seen a lot of corporations have stepped up, and they're going to say that. A couple comments here on Facebook. R.J. Pazzi, yes, less restrictive laws and more basic constitutional rights and liberty. Nancy Smith, thank you for tuning in. Brian's decision to walk back his promise to live in a house built for him for 10 years says a lot about his character, unfortunately. Very true. Jeff, you had also talked about somebody that might be born to help our water and our environment. That's probably the biggest issue here in Martin County. So, discharges that come from Lake Okeechobee, it comes in, it pollutes our waters. first of all, with fresh water, but secondly, with the pollutants that are in there. We've had terrible algae blooms up here. What do you see as solutions to help residents in this district? Because one person can't do it on their own.
Well, I just to your point on corporations, woke corporations flying their employees all over the country to have abortions. I believe that it's cheaper for them to do that than to pay for maternity leave and add another person to health insurance. So that, this whole wokeness, I mean, I believe the woke run is done, and we're seeing it unfold. And we saw CNN Plus fail in a month. I have milk in my refrigerator that lasted longer than CNN Plus. And the folks driving Teslas, Elon Musk is coming on our side. They're crying, they're tears, and Teslas are burning up because they're just so upset. So what we're seeing with these woke companies, and Disney and this whole grooming thing, that is a tremendous problem, and that needs to stop. And Governor DeSantis, the greatest governor in the nation, is doing a great job on that. Now to the water, this is I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night, so I'm not an expert. So I have some ideas on the water situation, and one of the things, we can shore up the Hoover Dike to hold more water. We can utilize some of the land that we've purchased over the years for better runoff. We can we take a look at northern Florida, and let's look at the septic systems and the sewage, and maybe there needs to be some kind of oversight. I know I like small government, but I'm torn. I know that this is a very hot topic, and I'm also a Federalist, so I know we have lots of commissions. We have the South Florida Water Management. We have scientists, and a lot of red tape. The Army Corps. I'll do whatever I can do as a congressman to help fix the problem, and I have ideas. Some of it's common sense. The water that goes onto a farm or Big Sugar, the water that flows off should be as clean or cleaner. Simple things. We have laws on the books. We have grants. We have $1.4 billion grant for a second reservoir. Let's make sure that gets done. We have money that's pretty much promised by D.C., but it never really reaches anywhere. So let's shake the tree up on that. And this is a quality of life. Florida depends on tourism, and we need to fix this problem. And I'm there for the people, whatever it takes.
Biggest question here in the area you'll be asked: do you take money from Big Sugar?
I have not. I do not.
Nancy, she said, don't knock wokeness. It's Republicans' best friend right now.
True.
And she's right about that. Nyla Pipes, she's with One Florida Foundation. Looking north of the lake is very important on water issues. Yeah. So it all comes down into that lake.
There's a saying, right? It's about flowing downhill.
That's right. There sure is, Jeff.
Anything you can do common sense on that, in my opinion, is good. The less that man tries to affect what man has already screwed up, the worse man.
We've messed it up so much already.
I'm not sure it is correctable, but I think that there are some things you can do to relieve some of the pressures. But you've got to identify what is the real pressure and who are the lobbies that are pressuring the hardest. Is this really, this is, in my opinion, the marine industry has a lot of influence in this. But at the same time, this is a marine community, and the people that live here are the ones that own the boats that sit in those marinas predominantly. So it is a big issue for everybody.
It's a huge issue.
It really is. It's a quality of life issue.
Funding's a huge issue too that needs to do these projects. Let's move on here a little bit. I want to talk a little bit more about why you're running against Congressman Mast. So we want to know the differences if constituents in this district elect you over Congressman Mast. So, let's specifically start off. We talked a little bit about it already, but going into the Second Amendment. Iggy, I know that you have a screenshot of Brian Mast had written an op-ed about his stance on the Second Amendment and that there should be a ban on the AR-15. And tell us a little bit about where you stand on that, Jeff.
Where I stand on the Second Amendment is there should be no bans. I'm for constitutional carry. And the AR-15 is it's almost like identity politics where it has such a bad name. I mean, I had a Doberman Pinscher for years, and it was the sweetest, most lovable animal, and everyone was afraid of it because its ears stood up and it looked mean. But there should be no bans. The second, our rights to bear arms should not be infringed upon. Before there was Homeland Security, before there were sheriffs, before there were law enforcement officers, there was the Second Amendment. The shop owner protected his store and his family, and we shouldn't have to show cause to carry a gun to protect ourselves.
And yeah, honestly, with the Second Amendment, you talk about with these school shootings right now, it's such a vulnerable target. It's so easy for somebody with a gun because they can go into schools and know there's not a gun there to retaliate against them. So the Second Amendment is important carry to me.
The shootings are always in gun-free zones. You don't
Right.
see shootings at gun shows.
That's
or,
right.
Or,
You don't.
Sheriff conventions.
It's a very good point that you do that. Let's talk a little bit, too, about insider trading. That's something that Eric and I have covered several times here in the studio. Brian Mast is a prolific insider trader on Capitol Hill, and it's one of these things, for myself, it's an integrity issue. I'm not electing somebody to go to Congress so that they can enrich themselves.
Yes.
And that's what insider trading, and anybody else, it's illegal, by the way. But Congress, they understand what laws are coming down the pike. They are interviewing companies. They know who's going to be awarded contracts, and they can trade on that information.
I agree, and your voting record. He was second to Nancy Pelosi in return on investment. Maybe we should utilize his skill set to do something with Social Security and the insolvency. Maybe take it a little private. Maybe some of these great investors in Congress can form a committee and invest and get us out of our financial hardships. They do so well for themselves.
They sure do.
Why don't they bring some of this back for the people? And were any donations made to any veterans on these astronomical returns? I'm just asking if that's if you can track that, and God bless him if he's a stock trader and he's a good picker, or anyone in Congress.
It just seems like their picks got better once they were elected.
The timing of them is suspect. I'm not here to bash anyone, and no one in Congress should profit off of the laws that they enable, and that needs to be looked at. And I want to go to Congress for many reasons. One of them is answers. You have Jamie Raskin, who introduced false evidence on he doctored a tweet on the second impeachment trial. I believe Nancy Pelosi abused her power. I believe that Adam Schiff lied to us for 4 years. We can't lie to Congress, but they can lie to us blatantly for 4 years. I'm looking for answers for the people, and I'll work for the people hard.
Again, we're speaking with Jeff Buongiorno. He is a Republican running for Congressional District 21, House of Representatives, against incumbent Congressman Brian Mast. And speaking of Brian Mast, let's talk a little bit about personal integrity. This was something that came out, and I did several shows on this. I had Craig Salmon Sawyer on, and also Nyla Pipes from Off on the show. He had some comments to his, it was campaign manager now. I'm not sure what his title is in his campaign, but somebody in Brian Mast's camp that was visiting in Africa, and there was a picture of him and some girls, and he said something to the effect of, I hope you can hook up with 15-year-olds. It's legal there, right? And another comment was, don't turn this rape into a murder, when they talked about getting together with women. And this was not a teenage boy saying this. This man was around 30 years old at the time.
It's disgusting, and it shows vulnerability, and I believe that to be in D.C. for an extended period of time, the morality muscle atrophies. So if you go into the swamp with weak morality, it's only going to disintegrate and get worse. So there's a there.
Took Brian about 2 weeks. And he went downhill quick from there. But it's not all about Brian. It's about what Brian has done and the path that Brian has chosen to walk down. And as a congressman, that he's overstayed the pledge that he stated that he would for term limits anyway. You can look back historically, and that's the nice thing about an incumbent. If you can look back over the term of an incumbent, and that incumbent has actually been doing what they said they were going to do, and you voted for him because you liked what they said they were going to do. You thought that they were going to govern for you as a representative of your voice, and they were going to do it well, then, there's something to an incumbency. But when you look back at an incumbency and you see these things that have popped up along the way, one has to ask themselves, whether it's Brian or any other candidate that's out there, is that the type of morality, integrity, the type of person that I want when it comes to being in the mosh pit of trying to keep government off of my back? Or are they going to be in there for themselves and not the people? And there are so many races out there that are taking place that I hope people will ask themselves that question. Is that the type of person, would you want them running your household?
Truly
let alone your congressional district?
That's right. We truly need to vet them. And on that subject, Brian Mast did sign a pledge that he would support 3 term limits. And that's it. But yet, now that he's in Congress, you don't hear anything more about it. Iggy, I think you have that pledge you can put up online.
We don't even hear from Brian anymore.
On
Brian
term
won't
limits.
even respond to chambers of commerce, to civic organizations. Forget people that are upset like me. Forget people like the 912 committees that are out there and the veterans groups. He won't even sit with opponents and have a question and answer. He's afraid. He's a photo op in the mail, email.
Well, they get swallowed up in the swamp, as they say.
Man, he got eaten alive.
Jeff, I want you to talk a little bit, too, about there's a water bill that Congressman Mast has pretty much taken credit for, but you have a little different, you looked at that bill to see who actually sponsored it.
Yeah, I looked at that bill, and it's to dangle, because it seems like all of these time periods are right around elections. So
Right.
it always pops up, we got this water bill, and it was this 4-page, literally nothing to it except not even common sense, just more red tape that we don't need. I like to turn to the local, the people that live here. The Army Corps is great, and I have total respect for them, but we have some great civil engineers right in our own county that I think we should turn to the public, and also new technology. Today's water treatment solutions aren't going to be the water solution treatments of the future. We have to look at maybe using it for electricity, the runoff, maybe UV filtering. There's just so many opportunities for technology, and again, getting back, as long as we have a solid educational foundation, I believe that we can turn to the private, turn to the colleges, and have some innovation.
Nancy Smith, again, thank you for tuning in. She's an excellent journalist that's been here for a lot of years, by the way. She's reported from here in Tallahassee.
You're not calling Nancy old, are you?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
So.
Nancy's young. Sunshine State News. Love you, Nancy.
Love
you know
you,
that.
Nance.
Please don't accept Brian Mast's argument that agriculture wants all our water for itself. He takes his marching orders from the Everglades Foundation, whose sole goal is to drive out sugar. Will you look at water issues as a wholly independent party?
Absolutely. We can't cast blame just on any one industry, and now more than ever, we're faced with food shortages. 22 food processing plants have burnt down in the last year and a half.
Yes.
Like 14,000 cattle just died for no reason, and all at the same time, rigor mortis set in, and they're all in the same position. So we need to rely more on agriculture, and we need to put Florida first and look at our sovereignty. The federal government, they seem to be our enemy, and we need agriculture as in the future.
We do.
I believe this is going to. The baby formula shortage, feminine hygiene shortages, empty shelves. What's next? We have to be ready. We have to prepare. That's another reason I'm putting myself out there, and that's why I love this district, because we do have a lot of agriculture, and we're going to need that.
We definitely are going to need that. They're talking about the high fertilizer prices and all this that's coming up this fall that is really going to affect farming.
I can tell you a story, and it might be a little lengthy for now, but I deal with a lot of high-level integrations of systems, and I had a call from a worldwide company for phosphorus, and that's their business, is selling chemicals for fertilizer, and they were in a panic because 100 countries all at the same time, they changed the laws on who they could sell to. They can no longer sell to distributors or farmers. It has to be sold directly to the government. This is like 8 months ago, so it's coming.
It's coming up.
ESG.
It's coming up, folks.
It's ESG, environmental, social, and governance scores, and the corporations have their purse strings being held by the global federal banks. And if they don't meet up to certain global Great Reset goals and ideas, they're not going to prosper as a corporation. This is when Atlas shrugged all over again.
Well, we're going to need real, true leaders in Congress when this hits later on, possibly this year. It looks like it could be as soon as just this year. I've been told that many times over. And
it's hitting. It's here. Rome was burning for 100 years before anybody realized it. Rome is burning.
And on top of that, the Ukraine-Russian war with the wheat shortages. So, there's a lot of things going on here at once. Nyla Pipes also said, Nancy makes great points. The Everglades Foundation runs most of the so-called enviro groups in Florida. How? With money. They are anti-agriculture, special interest group that buys influence and lies to people. Karen Hall, thank you for tuning in. She says, you guys are sharp.
Thanks, Karen.
So let's move on here a little bit. You talked about election integrity. That was obviously one of the biggest issues with the last presidential election.
That's right down my alley. Well, just last week I was at a meeting in Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections office. They called all the candidates in, and it was a dog and pony show on signature verification, and everyone had their clipboards and everyone's taking notes. But I stood up and asked, well, there's 1,200 people registered at the Supervisor of Elections office. That's their address, some of them 90 years old. And that's where homeless people can register to vote. So I asked the question, well, if Michael Bloomberg sent down 10 buses with thousands of people, would they be considered eligible to vote? Because there is no address verification in the state of Florida. That's just, I could talk a whole hour on that. That there's another reporting law that they have to, the Supervisor of Elections has to give us detail of each precinct, each contest, and the vote type, whether it's vote by mail, whether it's provisional, whether it's same day, or whether it's early vote. Now, there's a law on it's these laws are legal, but they're not lawful. There's no transparency. If any one of those buckets has between 1 and 29 votes, they don't have to report any detail, just the aggregate. So I'm an analytics guy. I went to pull the data, and I couldn't get the breakdown of the vote. And we built an app actually to isolate the violations. There was 9,721 lines that this happened in the 2020 election, and it continues today. We saw it with Dale Holness and Sheila McCormick that it took like 5 weeks to determine a little special primary that was hardly any voters, 40,000 voters. So I want to know what backdoor deals are being made along these 5 weeks. We saw it in Pennsylvania with Dr. Oz. They're normalizing this. And I actually met my campaign manager Shane at Mike Lindell's Cyber Symposium, and that kind of fell apart. They're trying to preach the idea that, well, it's some super satellite in the sky. No, it's happening at the local and the state legislators. There's weak election laws. If you're over 64 years old, you don't need ID to vote. And I'm not saying that not every precinct enforces it or doesn't or won't ask for ID, but that's on the books. So our own laws have been changed and weakened ahead of the pandemic or maybe even a plandemic based on the timing of the laws. It was before the pandemic, and they're already talking about social distancing. So this is near and dear to my heart, and I get excited about it. And this is the biggest problem. If we had a fair election, we wouldn't be faced with the issues we are today.
And people have to know that it's fair as well. Election integrity is of utmost importance. If you feel like the voting isn't fair and it's not accurate, that's what makes people either not vote or just really lose complete faith in the system. So, I think at the basis of our election system that we have here in the United States, if we don't feel that it's trustworthy,
what do the veterans fight for?
That's right.
What are they? How many in Arlington? 400,000 veterans buried in Arlington. Something like half a million. I mean, and it's our freedoms. This is the basic freedom. I mean, it's like the Zero Amendment, but it comes before the First Amendment. We need the.
We do. We're leaders of the free world. We're leaders in the world, and we need to stay that way. And our election system is the basis of that.
I don't know if we're going to stay that way. I mean, you see it right out in Indiantown right now, and you go back to this elections fraud stuff. They'll bring people in from Okeechobee because Okeechobee's so predominantly Democrat. They can spare a few hundred votes to bring them down and have them register as Indiantown voters from the Democratic Party to help push the numbers up down in the area. And then they're actually trying to elect a candidate out there that his only source of income is the few shekels that he gets every year for being a council person in a 6,000 person village. Yet he doesn't have any other income, and he wears nice suits, and he drives nice cars, and he lives in a nice house. You see, the taxpayer is paying him for his food and his housing and for his subsistence. And these are people that they're looking at electing, people that are going to make the rules, that know how to support themselves. If there was a charter case for universal basic income, Anthony Dowling would be the prime picture boy on that one, but.
And Jeff, you're actually an example of a businessman. You know how to create income. You know how to create jobs so other people can create income for themselves. It's not about living off the government.
No.
So
But that's why I say we've got to have people in there that understand that. Who are you
100%.
voting for, people? Look at who you're voting for. Things, if you can't see the writing on the wall as an adult at this point, you have really been brainwashed. Put the phone down and get some fresh air, because the people you elect in this time around,
It's extremely
gonna be
important.
meaningful.
Just how Congress has like an 18% approval rate, but they get the incumbents are reelected 85% of the time. It just doesn't add up.
People, you just can't look at the names.
it
You
just-
need to vet the candidate. It
And
doesn't add
and
up.
the primaries are very important because the rhinos sneak in. There's low voter turnout.
right.
People just think, I'm going to go out and vote Republican all the way down the line on election
That's right.
day. They could do more harm than good that way.
They
So,
absolutely
and
can.
We need to get the vote out for the primaries. And it seems like there's no coverage by the Republican Party doesn't promote it. No one even knows there's an election coming in
Well,
August.
Jeff, here's one thing that is personally I don't agree with at all. Brian Mast doesn't want to debate anybody.
Right.
So it doesn't give anybody a chance to see Jeff Buongiorno
I already asked
versus
him.
Brian.
I'm
Yeah, he
up.
won't.
Yeah.
He won't. RJ Pazzi, state sovereignty is taken away by grant funds and agencies like the Army Corps of Engineers. Just a comment. Thank you for tuning in, RJ. Let's talk a little bit more down the list here. You have a section on your website, America First. Tell us what you cover there.
Sure. America First principles are pretty basic, and we need to secure a border. A country without borders isn't a country. Fiscal responsibility, energy independence. We need a strong military, not a woke military. We need to put America first. We need to bring manufacturing jobs back to America, good-paying jobs. The Industrial Revolution was what made us, and we kicked China's butt. And now there's this 100-year marathon that started in 1949. China wants to take over us economically, and we need to fight that. We need to get back to manufacturing. We need to get back to energy dominance, not just independence, but energy dominance. And we need to protect our status as the world reserve currency for the U.S. dollar, because I mentioned this before. That's the only tool we have for sanctions aside from going to war. So America First is the border, the 3 R's, right? We want to resume the border construction. We want to repeal,
Amen.
catch and release, and we want to reinstate remain in Mexico. And it's that simple. We solved the border crisis. And we're looking at food shortages, but yet we're letting everyone into the country. It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And, with COVID, they opened the border, let everybody come through. They're complaining about COVID being spread. And they're transporting these illegal immigrants throughout the country, putting them on buses and releasing them.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, votes for the
See,
future
that's why I
election.
say this election has major consequence, because this is traitorous in certain levels. I mean,
Yes.
that's a big word
is
for a veteran to say, or any American to actually say over the airways is traitorous, and a lot of the actions are traitorous that this administration is perpetrating. And I believe that it goes right back to the ESG score, the Great Reset, where they have to bring America down to the level of the rest of the world before they can get everybody on an even level so that they can have more global control.
Yep.
And this administration is already giving away American sovereign rights through the World Health Organization. He has gone in and removed restrictions and given sovereignty to let the World Health Organization supersede the law of the land in the United States when it comes to the next pandemic.
And Jeff, that's one of the things that you really focused on why you're running.
Yep. Well, with this influx and basically the Biden administration or the globalist administration, they're providing the last leg of transportation into Florida, into the northern states, and yes, voting, the illegal immigrants voting is an issue, but more importantly is the census. So they're counted in the census. So now it throws off the apportionment of power. Everyone from New York is coming to Florida, so now we're going to we're going to replenish the stock. We can replenish the stock of people that leave New York, but we can't keep our grocery stores stocked.
Stacked.
So, this is the problem too, because that's going to mess up the apportionment, and the vote of a person in New York will actually be more powerful than the vote in a person from Florida because of the replenishment. So that law on the census has to change. We can only count American citizens.
Let's move on a little bit here to education.
Okay, education. Yeah, well, we need to get back to teaching a historically accurate curriculum reading, writing, and arithmetic. Let's teach critical thinking,
Amen.
not critical race theory. No public school should discriminate against a child who wants to pray, or if they want to, they need to say the Pledge of Allegiance every day. They need to stand for the national anthem. They need to honor the American flag, and we must foster unity. And none of this divisiveness, and you're oppressed and I'm the oppressor, and just the craziness. And the problem with that is, we've even seen this in the last 20, 30 years, where Abraham Lincoln said the philosophy of today's classrooms is the philosophy of tomorrow's government. And I think our friend here, case in point, is, there's a difference between intelligence and education. And education seems lately, the more educated you are, the more indoctrinated you are. So education is key. It's the long game. A great bill passed in Arizona, $7,000 to each student. Arizona has led the way in what I call backpack funding, where the state funds go to the parents. We need more of that, more homeschooling, and we need to get rid of the Federal Department of Education once and for all.
Yes.
Thank you. I was going to ask you if you would support legislation for that. One of the big problems that you have is that the purse strings from the DOE are tied to every dollar that comes through, and that's why we have, which I've said for years, palatial. You look at they use buffers to polish the marble on the hallways in some of these high schools and junior highs around here. They're palatial mansions. They're not schools. But they get it from the federal government, so it's okay. But yeah, I'm with you 110%. What about the EPA? Should we do away with the EPA?
We should, but one more thing with this whole transgenderism going on in school. The only trans in public schools should be transparent C. They should see. There should be cameras. They should know what's being taught to our kids. They should have full knowledge, full visibility. Let's get back to this. But we used to have the PTA meetings, and the parents are going. What happened to those? They're non-existent. And
unions.
That's
transparency is gone in schools.
Yep.
COVID opened it up a little bit, but now we're back into schools, and parents are like, "Wait, what are they teaching our children?"
The EPA, the Department of Interior, these resources belong to the states, not the federal government. And I believe that we're not allowed to drill, and there's all these land leases that are being locked because our debt is so high, and the likelihood of default is high that's being held as collateral to our creditors, and that's why we have all these bans on our natural resources. Exactly. Our settlers came here for the resources. We fought wars. The feds can't tell us what to do. If worse comes to worse, honestly, we don't like to see oil fields, and Florida could be self-sufficient, take the revenue from the oil, and we're state sovereign. That's what we need to be to stay sovereign. And I get excited over this. There's too many 5 initial and 3 initial agencies. Yeah. That's tyrannical, and that's hurting the country.
Well, that's why the only difference between Home Depot and Lowe's is blue and orange. Everything has to look the same because it's regulated by OSHA, it's regulated by this agency or that. You have to build things according to federal regulation.
It is.
And lack of regulation creates innovation.
Yes. That's very true.
It does.
It does. That is true.
That's what repeal. Just go back, do 120-year look back, even longer to 1900. Look at some of the laws that were passed. We talk about the districts being so large. I would be in favor of diminishing my power by 50% by doubling the number of House reps and having smaller districts. There's 22 countries that have a smaller population than one congressional district. Iceland has 360,000 people. One congressman can't represent accurately 750,000 people. We have Palm Beach, Martin County, St. Lucie County. Now,
very different.
That's they have to lie and straddle because they're representing 3 different.
It's very different districts.
Demographics.
Jeff Buongiorno, Republican running for Congressional District 18. Couple comments here. Amy Pritchett, she's running for school board here in Martin County. She said it's common sense and what is missing when she was talking about or listening to what you said about education. And she also said people in the states should make the decisions, not the feds. RJ Pazzi, what is your position on CBDCs? Not sure what CBDCs are, to be honest with you.
I think that was a punk rock club in New York City. I thought it closed down.
Let us know what you mean, RJ. So, again, folks, we're speaking with Jeff Buongiorno. He is a Republican running here in CD 21. folks, as you listen to him today, you can probably understand why Brian Mast is afraid to debate him. Also, Melissa Martz reached out to debate. He's afraid to debate his opponents. It's good to hear from all these opponents so we can vet them fairly. When somebody doesn't want to speak out and have just a good old-fashioned debate, a good old-fashioned forum so you can tell the differences, you have to question why. Why are they afraid of that? Just in my opinion, it's afraid of giving up the power of possibly losing the seat.
Yeah.
Because I think as we have this discussion today, we can really see what a conservative Jeff Buongiorno is, and you have strong convictions. Jeff, let me ask you this. Would you support a 3-term limit, even if it's not?
I already signed to George Blummel. He became a very good friend, and he's leading the charge down here. I signed it. I talked to George often. He's having some back issues. I want to wish him my best. George and I became very good friends. He would kill me if I didn't.
So I love to hear that. So whether it's law or not, 3 terms and you're out.
I'm out.
You're out. RJ Pazzi says digital currency replacing the dollar.
Yeah, but let me intercept that one real quick
Yeah.
because it's more than a cryptocurrency. It is a programmable digital currency, meaning that it ain't crypto, baby. And everything about it is programmable down to the point that what they're proposing, and it's already on paper and they're moving this forward, so get ready for it. If they decide during the food shortages like you've been talking about, and let's say whatever the reason is, whether it's diesel shortages, cost of labor, blah, 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 whatever it is, everybody can look and see that there's some problems on the shelves in America right now, more so in the Midwest than we're seeing out here. But when it gets to that point, if your ESG score isn't correct and your environmental, social, and governance score on Facebook has you with a low score and you're a threat, you're only going to get 5% of your money going towards gas. This person, because they're a minority and they're a young elected official and they're all woke, well, they're going to get to spend 20% of their money on gas. So it's programmable down to the person by demographic and scores, and that's what they're looking at doing, is giving you a social credit score and weight and controlling everybody. You control them through the money, you control a society.
Yeah.
Period.
That's absolutely right.
You know, I think that some of the cryptos are an alternative way for investing, and I'm all for that. But I don't think as a day-to-day operational currency. I love the dollar. It's beautiful. Let's keep it strong. Let's keep our country safe, and we need a strong dollar.
It's
to do
broken. It's already broken.
Yeah.
When we moved off of the gold standard,
yeah.
and Nixon did what he did, and I'm not even sure that all of the gold. Well, I'll go off on a tangent here a little bit. I'm not even sure all the gold they say that's supposed to be in the vaults is even in the vaults, to tell you the truth, because they won't let anybody, including congressmen, in to go and verify that the gold is actually in the vaults that it's supposed to be there for.
Well, I would consider the oil standard. We back our dollar.
Exactly.
Our oil or something
It is. I mean,
yes.
we're a mess
Yes.
right now, but they're going to move to that digital currency. The cryptos are the inversion of where we're at. The cryptos actually do give you the anonymity that you want from a technical perspective. I'm a programmer. I went to one of the technical schools that you're talking about.
Right.
And I paid
On a
my
grant?
my student loans back.
Oh, hey,
Thank you
man.
very-
Really?
By the way,
Somebody that
can
paid
I
their
get a
loans back.
rebate? You know,
Yeah,
I'd
no,
like to
I'd
have
like to get a rebate on my loans, too.
Tens
Yeah,
of thousands
no.
I paid for my college.
I've been through a lot of employees in my career, and some of them have great resumes and went to great schools, and I have been known to say you should ask for a refund.
Yeah.
It is. I know it. It's so wrong. I just want everybody to pay their own bills. You spend it, you pay for it.
But crypto's cool.
RJ said, it's total government control. It's another mechanism to spank dissenting citizens, and just like grants and funds, it controls our local government.
Yep.
So
Yep. Exactly.
pretty much comes down to that. We've got less than 5 minutes left. Let's go on the next topic, government and spending debt.
Okay, so the next topic that we have a little bit of time, I want to talk about an experience I had at the St. Lucie REC. I've been endorsed by Steven Stern. He's leading precinct strategy. He owns a company called Flagshirt.com, all those patriotic shirts. Well, I was called to the REC meeting, and there was all of a sudden there was a quick rush to endorse Brian Mast prior to the primary. They had to invoke Rule 8D, and I was told different dates and different times, and it was going to be a two-step vote. So what happened? My campaign manager and I went, and they took a roll call where they needed a quorum, which I don't even think they got, because folks were saying, "Oh, he's here," Now he's in the bathroom while he's outside,
Wow.
and then everyone had to stand up to get, I think it was 50% of the total votes or members, and the chairman was like telling people they didn't know what was going on. Stand up, stand up. So they went and they did this vote. They gave me 3 minutes to speak, and they played a nice video that was professionally done by Mass, probably paid for by taxpayer dollars. And then when they got the vote, finally they wrote it down on a yellow post-it and they said write yes or no. They take the vote and they walk out and they come back and say, oh, we have enough votes. They don't give us the vote count. It was like the biggest hit
Wow.
job. I'm a city guy,
Wow.
and I saw it
A
doesn't
sham.
take much to
It's a
see
sham.
right through that.
Right. Complete sham.
Sham. And they were calling the members and telling them I'm too MAGA, I'm too far right. I'll lose to the Democrat because I'm too far right. Meanwhile, Donald Trump endorsed Brian Mast,
Right.
but I'm too MAGA.
You're the one that's too far right.
Yeah.
Again, folks, we're speaking with Jeff Buongiorno. You can go to his website, jeffbuongiorno.com. I just suggest everybody, appreciate you getting into this race. We need to hear more from you. The primary is going to be August 23. Chambers, all these different community organizations, have Jeff come out and speak to your groups. This is how we get to know him. And this is what's important. And again, it's a personal thing for me that Brian Mast won't debate these candidates. This is wrong. Jeff, you've got a lot to offer here, and I think it's worth listening to. So,
Hey, Casey, I know you, and I'd be more than happy to moderate a 3-person debate between the 3 of these people and just ask, the pointed questions that need to be asked.
Yep, Melissa, Jeff, and Brian, absolutely. There should be a debate, and it's out there. We offer it. 100%. If you don't want us to
Open
moderate, we'll
doors.
find moderators. That's not the issue. We need
I'm not
Brian
hiding
Mast.
anything, and neither are you. I mean, come
the
on.
issue
We need
is,
Brian
Brian,
Mast to be
the issue
confident
is
enough in his own decisions that he can actually stand up and debate.
He can't defend himself. That's the issue. And I'm not extremely right. I'm extremely right. I'm not to the extreme right. I'm extremely right on the issues. It's common sense. I don't want to be pegged as I see these crazy billboards and people think you have these, you're a crazy right-wing guy. No, I'm a businessman, common sense candidate.
So, Jeff Buongiorno, we're running out of time here. We honestly, folks, go to his website, jeffbuongiorno.com. It's BUONGIORNO.
VoteBongi.com.
Vote
BONGI.com. VoteBongi.com. They're both the same. That
makes it much easier.
Doesn't it?
It really
I tell some of the consultants that.
I wish I had seen
Forget
that.
about it. Forget about it.
VoteBongi.com.
Indeed.
How else can they reach you if they want to reach out to talk to you about coming to speak to their group?
Sure. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. My cell phone number's 561-690-0430. Give me a call anytime.
There you go. You can reach out to him through Facebook, through his website, and also on his phone. Folks, again, VoteBongi.com. There are so many. He's got 15 top issues up there: end identity politics, healthcare, religious freedom from big tech, right to life, public safety, family, national defense, immigration and border. I would have loved if we'd gotten to that one. We didn't. Economy and jobs, another one I would have loved to have gotten to, but we're out of time, Jeff.
Thought we had an hour.
I know. It goes so quick. Appreciate you coming in. Again, VoteBongi.com.
BONGI.
And August primary, August 23. That's your candidates.
We need volunteers. We need help.
You got it.
Freedom's not free.
Thanks. Bye now.